Let's talk to Rupert Bell, TalkTV's royal correspondent. He joins us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Quiet weekend, go up to much?
Well, Saturday, then I spent a couple of days in a muddy field in Gloucestershire watching some horse trials.
I was going to say, less of your personal life there, please, Rupert.
But anyway, no, but I kept a watching brief on other events.
Lovely.
And so clearly it's been a frenetic and actually hearing what Graham Smith, I was obviously outside Methodist Hall, so it was quite difficult for me. I never really didn't really see the crowds because I was in a sort of, it was a bit isolated from the crowds, but I did walk through them afterwards and there was lots of good-natured. But clearly, in retrospect, it does feel heavy-handed. And I think the King probably, in retrospect, might be thinking, we didn't need this. Because actually, once again, the focus has been diverted away from actually the pageantry and the celebration. Because
and apparently, Republic have had a whole load of extra donations and people joining because people are angry about this. I mean, this is the crazy thing. They should, the protest went off anyway. They should have allowed the protest. The police should have, taken action. It's quite clear. I agree with Graham Smith that this was a premeditated decision. It almost undoubtedly had political direction, and questions need to be asked. There are going to be legal repercussions for this, and quite rightly, because people do have a right to legal, peaceful protest, not to block roads. Anyone disrupting the actual coronation, I think, absolutely should have been prevented from doing so and arrested at any moment that was clear. But this is a very different thing. No question at all. The whole event went off superbly. The only glitch, we're told, was Kate and William arriving a little bit later than they should have, and the King having to wait for a few moments. I mean, if that was your only glitch in an event like that, it was absolutely stunning to watch. Wonderful pageantry, fantastic events over the weekend. The Windsor concert, again, a great success, looked fantastic, sounded fantastic. And again, the volunteering events yesterday and the street parties. It was a really lovely weekend of sort of the country coming together and showcasing ourselves to the world, despite the weather, which I think we managed all very well. But, in terms of where we go forward now, are the royals going to be having a little bit of quiet time now? Do they get a bit of a break from wearing the heavy crowns and shaking hands every 3 seconds?
I imagine the King might just be letting the air out of the balloon and relaxing, maybe in Highgrave. I mean, he went there on Saturday night, which is near where I was, in Badminton, just to sort of before he went back to Windsor, because that is his sort of place he can wander around his garden and just sort of chill out. And I think he probably might want to, bearing in mind he is 74, his wife, the Queen, is 75, so it was a full-on emotional weekend for him, more than anything else, because finally he has been crowned King of this country. But clearly he will be frustrated with the fallout and frustrated with other headlines that are around this morning about what he has done over recent months.
Let's talk about that headline. It's a headline about Boris Johnson and then Prince Charles having a bust-up over the government's Rwanda scheme, and it's claimed by Gito Harry, who was Downing Street chief communications chief for the Prime Minister, as then was Boris Johnson, an extraordinary clash. The Prime Minister at the time rounded on the Prince of Wales and warned him against interfering in politics.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before, and about how can the King restrain himself from getting involved in overtly political matters and actually being seen to have a strong opinion. You never heard the Queen ever have an opinion in public. OK, things would occasionally leak out. You remember around the Scottish referendum, there was a few things and various other things that would suddenly appear. But to suggest they had a full-on row. Now, clearly, if you look at the dynamics of the two individuals, they're fairly different. So I imagine there might be personality clashes. But the article, and Boris Johnson's current team are saying, no, this never happened on the way that it's being reported, and that, yes, they may have discussed it, but it actually highlights, because remember, the Queen was still alive there, and he was basically representing the Queen at this Commonwealth Summit in Rwanda. So therefore, it's probably a learning curve for him that he just needs to go in under the radar and not put his head and
a learning curve. I mean, not in your mid-70s. But what's interesting, this is all sort of second-hand. This is Guto Harry saying this is what the then Prime Minister told him about what he had told now King, but then Prince Charles. The reality is, I mean, can we 100% trust Boris Johnson's version of events? I mean, some of the claims that have been made, since for Boris Johnson, things that, are these things verifiable or not? So we don't know. But we do know that King Charles has form as Prince of Wales in giving his tuppence worth on things. And we certainly, even on the concert on Windsor on Sunday night, there was a lot of talk about the green agenda, Prince William in his speech. And again, that is very politicised now. But if everyone can pretend it's not, it is. When people can't pay their energy bills and we have blackouts, the net zero policy, the green agenda, is absolutely going to be foremost, number one, big policy debate in this country. And the King, we know which side he's on it. Well, it's all right for somebody who can pay his bills and can make his fast cars run on side or whatever it is he's done with his Lamborghini. But for most people, they don't have access to 10 different palaces and they don't have servants and they can't pay their bills.
Well, and that is the fine line. And Prince William has also got to make sure that he has got to be careful, because he's got the Earthshot Prize and he has been very forthright, not necessarily in his views, but actually what he's trying to encourage. And the Earthshot Prize seems very well intentioned, because it's not just about in this country, it's on a global scale. But once you're seen, it will give ammunition to the Republican movement if he's seen to be political, because then you're opening the door for actually saying, well, what do we need? A more political head of state rather than just the institution of the monarchy.
And that is the key thing that most people love the monarchy for being above politics, above that political frame. So I don't want, President Tony Blair or President Jeremy Corbyn. I don't want a failed politician. I want to have someone, who's there for, for life, who's going to do the job and represent the country, and not be a source of, of dispute between the people in the country. And that's such an important part of that role, something that the Queen did effortlessly for 70 years on the throne. But I wonder again, was that a different time in terms of the willingness to criticise and question King Charles and previously Prince Charles is going to be very different from the way that the Queen was treated, and indeed the way the Queen behaved over the years.
I think you're absolutely right. And actually we're seeing it already. The countries who are already wanting to break away, some of the Caribbean countries, they waited until the Queen died. So you can see the influence she had. It was almost out of respect, but it is a change of tack in every sense of the word. And so everyone has to look at it. And that's always going to be the King's problem. How does he navigate through this new era when everyone has been mightily respectful of the Queen, 70 years on our throne? We've now got a guy who's into, 7 or 8 months, 9 months into his tenure as our monarch, and he has got to learn. And look, he's accepting of countries if they want to change him back away. He's not going to make any fuss about it, but he knows that everyone is analysing his every move in an era where everyone is up popping, giving quotes about something, including Guto Harry, reacting in his position as he was the former communications secretary. So it's very hard for the King, but he basically has to learn how to just, less is more, just basically go, lovely to meet you, and leave it at that.
And what do you do? Rupert Bell, thank you very much, Dina.